Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast with hosts Amy Babinchek, James Kernan, and Carl Polachek. Produced by Kernan Consulting and for the international MSP community. We are dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Small Business Community Podcast with Amy and James Kernan. Audience, you can't see James right now, but he is sporting an amazing tan all of a sudden. And this is October. He should not be doing that. So what happened to you, James?
I cheated. I was out in California for the past week. So basking out there in the beautiful weather.
Yeah, I heard you went on a nice wine tour and then you hit up the SMB Tech Fest conference. So
yeah, it was a fun week for sure, and great time of the year to get back to California. I lived there, most of my professional career was out in California, so it's kind of good to be back, see a lot of family and friends. But good event at SMB Tech Fest down in Irvine for those of you that attended that. You saw that firsthand, but good event there. It's a 2-day event last Thursday, Friday.
Awesome. I think this is actually the best time of year to travel anywhere. Yeah. It's like the middle and north of the country are experiencing fall, which is always beautiful. Here in Michigan, the leaves are in full color right now. So it's very, very pretty out. And the weather has been amazing. It's in the lower 70s. It's just perfect weather. And then down south too, it's not so scorching hot anymore. So if you want to go down south, and then not to mention it's off season, so all the family vacationers are back at school, and you can enjoy a little bit more laid back vacation time. Hey James, we have a question that actually coincides with an article that I wrote for Channel Pro, completely coincidentally, and it is what KPIs do you need to look at to manage your business?
That's good. I'll drop the link to Amy's article in the show notes for sure. But I get this question a lot as well, because a lot of people don't know what KPIs or financial metrics to use. I kind of break it down into two quick areas. One is financial numbers, and two, performance numbers. And normally they come out of different tools. The financial numbers typically comes right out of your accounting. I like looking at the P&L on a regular basis. Keeping your eye on, the sales, activity, gross profit, service revenue, MRR. Those are all really important. And then on the performance side, these KPIs are a little different, but I like tracking on the help desk side the number of tickets, and then break it down into the team from a billable utilization standpoint. I like tracking the billable utilization. That's an important one. And then on the sales side, for those of you that have salespeople, I like the things like pipeline, and then activity, number of calls, number of meetings, per day or per week. Those are important ones as well.
Well, James, you just hit on something really important, because you talked really about 3 areas of KPIs and 3 completely different sets of KPIs. Yeah. Right? So we have different kinds of things to track. One of those is, how efficient are my staff? Am I getting good value from the people that I have working for me? Are they productive? Are they doing all the things they're supposed to do? Right? And that's all about closing tickets and, staff utilization and all those kinds of operational things. Yeah. And then, you talked about sales, and then you talked about really, financial stability of the company. And it's 3 completely different sets of KPIs. I think a lot of people just think of KPIs as one thing. And when you go to a lot of conferences, they're either talking about a lot of times they're talking about operational KPIs. How fast do you close tickets, and all that stuff. It's like, and the question that I answered over at Channel Pro, it was sent to me by them, was I'm tracking my metrics and I'm hitting my goals, but I don't know if I'm doing it right because my business still isn't growing. And that immediately sort of tells me that, well, you must be tracking the wrong things then.
Right.
Right. So when you said you were looking at the financial KPIs, I think that's so important to look at those at least quarterly. And
Mhm.
I always like to compare how I was doing that quarter the year before.
Yeah.
And in QuickBooks, it's really easy to do a comparison and, same quarter last year and see those percentages to the side, pluses and minuses, right? So like, where did I spend more money than I spent last year? And then why? Or where did I not hit my numbers and why? And so it's important to take a look at those every quarter. And so over at Channel Po, I said that there's like 8 KPIs that are really, really sort of my favorite to let you know whether your business is poised for growth or if there's, help to find some pain points in your business that might be blocking that. And one of them you mentioned is, was utilization. My number one KPI was revenue per technician.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how I measure the efficiency. And I had a goal set of 300,000 per tech. And, that was the amount of revenue that I expected each technician to generate for the company. And, that gets filtered into the calculation of, your managed service plan and how much of that is your tech staff and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But, whatever the number that you set, it really needs to be about 3 times more than the total cost of that employee in order for your business to make money. And then I also like to look at the percentage of revenue that's actually hitting the bottom line, right? And so I find a lot of businesses don't actually pay attention to the expense of running a business. And the other thing I find sometimes is that owners are taking too much revenue out of the company. I
Mhm.
always like to see a minimum of 12% of gross revenue and better up, going up to 20 to 25% of gross revenue, hitting all the way to that bottom line, even after you pay yourself.
Yeah.
We need to have that healthy amount to reinvest into your company if the company's going to grow. It has to have that capacity. And then speaking of capacity, the other thing is excess capacity, right? And that is there room for me to add additional services to my MSP packages, um, and to take on new clients without taking anything away from existing clients or overtaxing my staff, right? Do I have that capacity both in my plans and in my people that I can grow the business without adding expenses today? That was something that was very important to me. And then, I've got eight different things in that article, which, we don't need to go over them all today, or we'd have an hour podcast just about that. But if you go over to our show notes and take a look, you can go ahead and read that article. I just give a real quick descriptor of each of those 8 areas that I think are really critical to for you to track to know that your business is ready to grow.
Yeah. And you brought up a really important point as well. I want to emphasize that, compliment that is the comparison numbers. So I like, just like you said, I like comparing, this period with a similar period, maybe last month or the prior quarter, last year, same month, or last year, same quarter, compare, because you're competing against yourself. And all of you should have goals on these KPIs. It's another important point. And then when you start tracking them, you can see the trends, of what's going right, what's not going well. And then, then you can kind of make decisions off of those. But good stuff. Yeah, check out that article. That's a good one. We've got that in the show notes on Amy's Channel Pro article.
Yeah, I think the other reason it's important to track your KPIs is because as a business owner, you can't focus on everything.
Mhm.
So, this allows you to drill down into what's a problem area today that I'm going to focus my energies on, this quarter. and, start to address that issue inside of, neaten up that part of your business. And then keep an eye on those numbers, and then you know exactly where to put your energies to keep your business on the right track.
Yep. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. And then one other thing we didn't really talk about, how often should you look at data like this? As a leader in the business, I like looking at these numbers on a daily basis. Look at them first thing every morning. I want to know how we did the day before, how we're tracking so far in the week. And at a minimum, you should share these numbers with your leadership team or department heads on a weekly basis. And clients that I work with, I put together these dashboards. Typically, you don't want to track too many things. I would say in each one of your departments or categories, like financial, help desk, sales, for example, you'd only want 3 to 5 KPIs, per category. So you don't want too many, but you want enough important ones to kind of keep your eye on the ball.
Yeah, you don't want to spread your attention too broad. And that's why that was sort of my point for putting your attention focus down onto something. Daily though, that's that's I think daily might be useful for sales and marketing, right?
Yes.
Did we do our posts? Did we make our phone calls? Did we, what kind of engagement are we having? That kind of stuff. I like to look at my financials monthly. Just a brief overview, right? Aging on invoices, that kind of thing. Just sort of a general overview of finances. And then quarterly is when I sort of really drill down into what went up, what went down, why did it happen? What does my utilization look like, for last quarter? What projects are upcoming? What's the projection going to, do I think the projection is going to be for next quarter? And I do really think it's very important to track that staff utilization so that you not only know that your staff is productive, but that you've got runway for growth. If you don't, you can't grow. You'll just be you may be taking in more money, but you're also then taking away from customers and overstressing your staff, and that's not a long-term sustainable process also. So you need that excess capacity and you need that cash on hand in order to make a business grow. All right. Hey, James, there was some really interesting thing in the news this last week. I know we both saw it independently. You saw it over at Channel EDE. I saw it as a direct post from Canalys. They talked about what the vendors market is for RMM and PSAs. And it was really interesting, and I think telling. Yeah, I'm always try to look out to the future and figure out what future is going to be. And Canalys produced a really interesting graphic that Channel EE wrote an article about it, and I think I shared it on LinkedIn as well. That the market share for the big three is down. It's really, really interesting because when I'll just read you real quick, like ConnectWise 2023 market share is down, a couple of percentage points. And these aren't huge numbers, right? Kaseya is just kind of level, right? To 22 and 22. Enable is just down a few percentage points. And NinjaOne is up a few percentage points. And all of them are, though, weirdly, even though they're down in market share, they're all promoting growth. So, growth, their revenue's gone up, but their market share's gone down. And but the really exciting thing here was that there was this sort of catch-all category of others. And the others market share is a third. So others have a third of the market share and a growth of 24.9. We may as well round up to 25% growth in others. That's huge. we're hearing if you and honestly, I would probably throw NinjaOne into the others category, and if you do that, that's 50% of the market now. So maybe if you're ConnectWise, Kaseya, and Enable, you look at that and say, well, we still have 50% of the market to grow into. Look at our numbers now and imagine what they're going to be later. On the other hand, those others are growing at 25% year over year, and you're only growing at almost, you know, 2, 3, or maybe even slightly going down. It's not good, and I think there's several reasons for that. And you immediately thought of one, and I immediately thought of another one. Why don't you go ahead with your impression of this first?
Statistics were not alarming to me, and really, I think people, a lot of MSPs I talk to are just tired of the 800-pound gorillas just bossing you around, and long-term contracts, they don't let you out. They're just rigid negotiators. The culture of these companies, ConnectWise and Kaseya, it's changed. And I keep hearing countless examples of people just getting fed up with it. And these up and coming ones, Managed Engine, Synchro. And I agree, I would throw NinjaOne in there too, because I visited their offices, did a tour, met with their executives, really understand where they're going. And they do not have that big company mentality like a ConnectWise or a Kaseya. Halo PSA is another big one. SuperOps is another up-and-comer. So there's some exciting companies to kind of keep your eye on. But
Yeah.
they're a little bit more flexible, because they need to be. They're in that other part of the bucket. What are
Right.
your thoughts on this?
Well, I think the 800-pound gorilla thing is definitely valid. You do have some people who will just switched, or just won't go for the big company. They prefer to work with somebody else. On the other hand, I think there are people making the switch because the big three, ConnectWise, Kaseya, Enable, are have a lot of legacy technical debt stuck in their product, old ways of doing things, and the newcomers are coming up, cloud first, built for the cloud, the whole different way of thinking of how to manage the network. And recently, I spent the better part of a day with Halo PSA at the Build It conference, and really impressed with the way that they think about it. We're completely on board with the idea that they were building something new for the future, where the future is mobility, remote work, remote management, everything remote, 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 and everything cloud, 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 all the apps in the cloud. Like, how am I going to manage all these app services? How am I going to manage all these OAuth things? How, just a lot of stuff we didn't have to worry about 20 years ago when Kaseya, ConnectWise, Enable, burst on the scene and started helping us manage networks. But we don't have those same things to manage. And, I know they're modernizing their product as well, but they're also carrying forward a lot of the old school stuff. And I think we might be starting to see that that's hurting them, because the others are representing 50% of the market, and we're seeing their market shares declining. So time will tell, I guess. We'll keep an eye on what's going on with that. Yeah, the other thing that we saw in the news, I think, that we wanted to mention is Marriott got fined big time.
Yeah,
For
big time.
big time. Yeah. So the FTC, which is the major enforcer of cybersecurity for our large enterprise companies, said, you did not do the right things in your business to protect people.
Yeah.
And that is, not doing the right things to protect your customers' personal information is a crime today. And $52 million later, Marriott is learning that lesson. And I bet that they're making bigger investments in their cybersecurity and privacy protections today.
Absolutely.
Funny
Absolutely.
how that works, huh?
Don't be a Marriott. Yeah, $52 million is a nice chunk of change. But in one regard, I don't like seeing things like this happen to people, but it's also a tough lesson learned. And we all should pay close attention to this. I think you'll see more and more companies being fined and being held accountable for, one, protecting themselves properly, and then secondly, how they respond to any type of incident. But I know that that Marriott data breach, there were almost 350 million customer records that were exposed. So, we
Yeah.
all need to take data protection seriously. And this is a perfect example of that happening.
I think we have to start doing something to hold businesses accountable for not making the proper cybersecurity investments. And the FTC can really only do that at the enterprise level. It's the only place where we actually have those rules in place. Small businesses always, end up exempt from a lot of government oversight. But if we start to hold the larger businesses accountable and, use those rules for what they were designed for, then we can hope that that will then trickle down into the SMB space, and we may make it easier for us to sell security into these spaces and to protect these companies. Now, one of the things that I have been very, very worried about recently is, as I'm reading the digital defense report, maybe we'll talk about this next week, but this week that we're recording this, Microsoft released their digital defense report. It gets more terrifying every year. And the reason it gets terrifying is that the numbers are so enormous, and the United States is such a large portion of the attacks in the world. You start to wonder, how long can our economy stand up to this? We are being targeted by our enemies through cyber attacks, and eventually it ends up weakening the country. So we have to get our businesses to invest, and we have to get our software manufacturers to be more responsible. I noticed CISA is starting to make some more noise about that. Let's not call them vulnerabilities, let's call them flaws, right? Let's change our language and how we think about these things, because memory leaks, buffer overflows. I mean, it's we're still in the same place that we were so many years ago, where the root cause of this stuff is still the same as it's always been, because they're not taking it seriously enough. I think that has to change. So there's my soapbox for today.
No, hey, I couldn't agree with you more. We need to take this more serious and, make this, everybody just is kind of complacent with these things. It's like, oh, another attack, another ransomware, another data breach. And, we shouldn't be tolerating this. We really need to tighten this up, because sooner or later it will break. And, it's all just added costs into our economy that's hurting all of us, just increasing prices of things, for example. So I agree with your point.
Yeah. So, James, on a lighter note, before we close up, I know you just had your event recently. When's the next one coming up? Where are you going to be?
It's coming up quick. We've got a fun event. It's normally our biggest of the year. So it's December 5th and 6th. It will be in Scottsdale, Arizona at the Talking Stick Resort. So people are signing up left and right on that. And if any of you SMB Community Podcast listeners want to, I've got a couple VIP tickets for free I'm happy to give away. If you can make the trip down to Scottsdale, Arizona, just on the outskirts of Phoenix, I will get you a free ticket to attend the event, $299 value. Just email me at james@curtinconsulting.com, and I'll get you a ticket. But yeah, I'm really excited about that event. Just the venue itself is amazing. We've got some superstar speakers all around the industry. Some of the leading technology vendors will be there. And so it's December 5th and 6th.
Yeah. We just talked about we started this show saying what a great time of year it is to travel. And this is the only season to travel to Arizona, in my opinion.
Exactly.
It's beautiful in Arizona this time of year. So yeah, book it and take a few days, to get outside and enjoy that weather. We got some great little hiking trails and rock formations and really interesting stuff to look at in the desert. It's a perfect time of year to do that. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in for another edition of SMB Community Podcast, and we will see you guys next week.
All right. Thanks. Good to see everybody.